red hair, and a hand-me-down robe, you must be a Weasley.
The Weasley family is a pureblood family known for being blood traitors by other pureblood families.
Why
We
blood
have a very
traitors?
different idea about what disgraces the name of wizard, Malfoy.
The Weasleys all have bright red hair and are known for being poor. In this video, I'm going to talk about the origins of the main Weasley family.
The one
that was featured in the
mysterious
Harry Potter
one that
series,
never
sticking
made it to
just
the live
parents
action.
and the 7 children. So let's start with the parents of the 7 children. Arthur Weasley was one of 3 boys to the parents Septimus and Cedrella Weasley. Cedrella was actually from the House of Black, another well-known pureblood family. Molly Pruitt was one of 3 and was the only girl. Her brothers' names were Fabian and Gideon. Both Molly and Arthur attended Hogwarts in the early 60s, and both were sorted into Gryffindor, which is how the two met. The two hit it off at Hogwarts, and one night they decided to go for a nighttime stroll across the grounds
Of course
at 4
they
in the morning,
did.
and they got
The
caught by the
lovers.
school caretaker at the time, Apollyon Pringle. The two graduated from Hogwarts in the late 1960s and got married soon after that. Their marriage was rather rushed due to Voldemort's reign. Although they were heavily involved in the Order of the Phoenix during the Second Wizarding War, they were not involved in the Order for the First Wizarding War. They instead went on to start their family. Their first son was born in 1970, and they named him William, but he would go by Bill for short.
Not
2 years
seeing
later,
much
their
of
second
him
son
in the
Charlie
live
was
action,
born in
and this one
1972.
was
Their
never
third
even
child,
showed.
Percy, was born 4 years
This
later
one no
in
one liked.
1976. Then they had twins in
The
1978
best
named
too?
Fred and George. In 1980, they had Ron,
The
and finally in
king.
1981,
The
they had their daughter
queen.
Ginny. While Molly was starting
Real
her
mystery
family,
is
her
how
2
come they
brothers
only had
Fabian
one
and Gideon
daughter?
joined the Order and fought against Voldemort and his Death
Did they
Eaters.
keep trying
Both were
until they
killed
had
when
one
5
daughter?
Death Eaters attacked them. Alistair Moody, one of the most respected Aurors, said that they both fought like heroes. The 5 Death Eaters would all be locked up in Azkaban for the Pruitt brothers' death. Molly rarely talked about the death of her brothers, which could possibly be because she was distraught and didn't want to relive the pain. However, everything that she mentions is all positive. Molly would give Harry Fabian's watch when he turned 17, making him of age in the wizarding world. In 1981, when Voldemort was defeated at the hands of 1-year-old Harry Potter, the First Wizarding War ended. People didn't have to live in fear any longer, and the Weasleys were able to raise their kids in a peaceful atmosphere now that no one was threatening the wizarding world. Around the time of Voldemort's downfall, Percy came into possession of a rat who he named
Oh,
Scabious.
that
All the
stupid
Weasleys
rat.
grew up in a house called the Burrow. It was
That's
described as
legendary
this.
home.
It looked as though it had once been a large stone pig pen, but extra rooms had been added here and there until it was several stories high, and so crooked it looked as though it was being held up by magic. Molly self-educated her kids in reading, writing, and simple math before
Brilliant
they went
woman.
to Hogwarts. They were very poor and struggled to get by.
This lot won't come cheap, Mum. The spellbooks alone are very expensive.
We'll manage.
Arthur was employed by the Ministry of Magic and was part of the Misuse of Muggle Artifacts office. Arthur was very fascinated with Muggles and their technology. He bought a Muggle car and bewitched it to make it fly, actually doing the exact thing that his division at the Ministry tries to stop wizards from doing, which is using magic on Muggle items. However, he wrote the law and purposely put a loophole in there so he could get away with having it. Fred and George were always a handful.
That's brilliant. Oh, Arthur, that's genius. Breaking your own laws, but before you write them, you know the law that you're gonna break, so you make a loophole in it. So you, oh my god, I never even knew that. That's genius, Arthur Weasley. Take a bow.
For Arthur and Molly. It wouldn't be uncommon to hear explosions coming from their room. They frequently teased their brothers, Percy and Ron. When Fred was 5, Ron broke his broomstick, so he turned Ron's teddy bear into a giant spider, which is actually what sparked Ron's fear of
Oh my
spiders.
lord.
Spiders.
The twins also gave a 7-year-old Ron an acid pop, which burnt a hole through his tongue. They were also
That's
almost successful at making
too-
Ron make an
too
unbreakable
much.
vow, and Arthur was furious. One Christmas, Fred and George set off a dung bomb under the chair of their great aunt Muriel, which made her cut them out of her will, and she never came back to the Burrow again. All of the boys followed and played Quidditch. Ginny, the youngest and the only girl, wasn't allowed to play with them when she was younger. Starting at the age of 6, however, she would break into the family broom shed and would take out each of their brooms and would try to fly
And
each
she
one of
ended
them
up being
around.
the best
Eventually, the
Quidditch
kids
player
began to
out
get
of all
old
the
enough to go to
Weasleys.
school. Unfortunately, due to their lack of money, they had to buy everything secondhand
Nothing
and take
wrong
on
with second-hand
hand-me-downs.
items.
Bill, being the oldest, was the first to go off to Hogwarts in 1982, the year after his sister Ginny was born. He was sorted into Gryffindor just like both of his parents. He did very well in school and was appointed a prefect in his 5th year and was made head boy in his 7th.
Oh, the
After he
Weasleys have a lot
arrived,
of
his brother
prefects and
Charlie
head
came to
boys.
Hogwarts, and he too was sorted into Gryffindor. Another girl in Charlie's year was a Hufflepuff girl named Nymphadora Tonks, who Charlie would become friends with. Charlie liked working outdoors and would choose to continue studying care of magical creatures in his 3rd year. This would later play a big part in his career path. Charlie joined the Gryffindor Quidditch team during his years at Hogwarts and played Seeker, a position he was very good at. Later in his Hogwarts years, he was appointed the captain of the Gryffindor Quidditch team, and just like Bill, his older brother.
But he wasn't shown in the movies, right? Or am I going crazy? No, he was never shown in the movie. That's why he's using the image. Well, why wasn't he ever shown in the movie? They show all of them, even the older one, in the later movies as well. Why? They mentioned him. I know they mentioned him in the Goblet of Fire movie. It's weird.
He would become a prefect in his 5th year. Eventually, it was Percy's turn to come to Hogwarts. Just like everyone else in his family, he was sorted into Gryffindor. Percy brought his pet rat Scabbers to school with him. He was very gifted in school and got very good grades. When Fred and George came to Hogwarts for their first year, Bill had just graduated and he went on to work at the Wizarding Bank Gringotts as a curse breaker in Egypt. Just like the rest of the Weasley family, Fred and George were sorted into Gryffindor.
But unlike the rest of the Wizarding family, they weren't
They played all kinds
grades.
of pranks at school. They even set up a joke shop in the bathroom that wasn't being used. They were very popular and were known for their sense of humor. They quickly became friends with Lee Jordan, another Gryffindor in their year. During their first year, they stole the Marauders map from Filch's office, a map that shows you the entire school grounds and where anyone was at any given second.
Where'd you get it? Nicked it from Filch's office, of course. First year.
In their 2nd year, they joined the Gryffindor Quidditch team and were beaters, along with their brother Charlie, who was still Seeker and also captain of the team that year. The two were very good at being beaters, even on the old terrible brooms that they had due to their family not being able to afford anything better. Charlie graduated from Hogwarts and he went off to Romania to study dragons. Many people thought that if he wanted to, he could have played Quidditch professionally, and that he was even good enough to make the English national team, but he decided to stick with his love of outdoors and magical creatures. In 1991, when Percy was entering his 5th year, he was made prefect, and his reward for this is that his parents bought him new robes and a new Screech Owl, who he would name Hermes. He would pass his rat Scabbers down to Ron, which was Ron's pet when he was.
The irony that this one stinking rat caused so many problems. If this stupid rat was actually eaten by Hermione's cat, so many less trouble would have been caused in the Harry Potter universe. This one stinking rat. Oh my goodness.
Going into his 1st year. On platform 9 3/4, they met Harry, although they didn't know it was him at the time, and Molly showed Harry how to get to the Hogwarts Express.
Molly and
on the
Harry's
train,
relationship
Ron
is
sat
so
with Harry
beautiful.
and realized he was the famous boy who lived. On the train, they also met Hermione Granger, a
original
bossy
trio.
but brilliant Muggle-born girl, and all three were sorted into Gryffindor. During their 1st year, Ron made fun of Hermione and she got really upset.
She's a nightmare, honestly. No wonder she hasn't got any friends.
Big mouth Ron.
She ended up crying in the bathroom for hours, and Ron and Harry found out that there was a troll loose in the school, and Ron and Harry went to go save Hermione. After that incident, the three were best friends from then on.
What a friend's fool.
During their 1st year, Harry took Charlie's position as Seeker on the Gryffindor Quidditch team, along with Fred and George, who were still beaters. All the Weasleys currently enrolled at Hogwarts stayed at school for Christmas break that year, while Molly, Arthur, and Ginny visited Charlie in Romania. Molly sent each of her children a sweater with their first initial on it, and sent one to Harry as well, making him feel welcome into the Weasley
That's
family.
so
Later that
beautiful.
same year, Ron wrote to Charlie asking him for a favor: pick up a dragon owned by Hagrid. This was risky for Charlie, seeing as the dragon was owned illegally, but Charlie arranged for some of his friends to pick up the dragon at the tallest tower in the school. At the end of the year, Ron became a hero when the trio went to protect the Philosopher's Stone, and Ron won in a giant life-size chessboard match by sacrificing himself.
To Mr. Ronald Weasley for the best played game of chess that Hogwarts has seen these many years.
That summer, Ron, Fred, and George rescued Harry from the Dursleys in their dad's flying car, and when they returned, they got in a lot of trouble with
have
Mrs.
you
Weasley.
been?
During that summer, Percy locked himself in his room and was sending letters to his girlfriend Penelope Clearwater, a fact that he kept hidden from his family so they wouldn't tease him. While Harry was at the Burrow that summer, Ginny, who had liked Harry since she saw him at King's Cross a year earlier, became very clumsy around him. The Weasleys along with Harry went to Diagon Alley to get their school supplies, and while there, Arthur got into a physical fight with Lucius Malfoy.
I wouldn't say that was
At the
a
end of the
physical
summer,
fight.
Percy, Fred, George, Ron, Harry, and now Ginny all went to platform 9 3/4 to go back to school. Ron and Harry got blocked from getting onto the platform, however, so they took Arthur's flying car, was seen by Muggles, wrecked it, and lost the car in the process. Mr. Weasley got in huge trouble with the Ministry for this.
Your father's now facing an inquiry at work, and it's entirely your fault!
One day, Ginny walked in on Percy and his girlfriend Penelope, who were together in the classroom, which greatly embarrassed Percy, and he asked her not to tell anyone. During that school year, Ginny wrote in a diary she found that had part of Voldemort's soul in it, and he took over her body and made her open the Chamber of Secrets to release the monster of the chamber, which petrified several students. Voldemort eventually brought Ginny down to the chamber, and the Weasley siblings, along with Harry, sat in the corner of the Gryffindor common room, not saying a word to one another, all thinking that Ginny was dead. Ron and Harry decided to go down to the chamber, and Harry saved Ginny just in time. Arthur and Molly were extremely grateful to Harry after that. That summer, Arthur won money in a daily profit drawing, and the entire Weasley family went to Egypt to
But why
visit
didn't
Bill.
they take
That
Harry
same
with
summer,
them?
Sirius Black escaped from Azkaban, and Arthur and Molly fought about what was best for Harry, and whether or not they should tell him that Sirius Black was after him. Harry overheard the conversation, and before Harry got on the train, Arthur briefly talked to Harry about it.
Harry, I want you to swear to me that whatever you might hear, you won't go looking for Black.
During Percy's 7th year at Hogwarts,
Oh, Prisoner of Azkaban is when the Harry Potter franchise really begins, because it's so freaking brilliant. One of the best movies, and doesn't get the much love as it should be, because that is when the real movie, in my opinion, franchise starts. 1 and 2, they're fun, cute movies to watch. I still love them to this day, but the third one is when the franchise really begins, so the story really starts. That's when the action kicks off. But also the tone shift as well, because it grows up with the actors, and it's very noticeable.
he was appointed head boy. Fred and George entered their 5th year, Ron entered his 3rd, and Ginny entered her 2nd. Ron learned the true identity of his rat Scabbers, and found out that he was an animagus named Peter Pettigrew. At the end of the year, Sirius, who they found out was actually innocent, sent Ron a pet owl that served as a replacement of him losing his pet rat. Percy graduated from Hogwarts that year and went on to work for the Ministry of Magic. He was assigned to the Department of International Magical Cooperation. He worked very hard and sucked up to his boss, Barty Crouch. The following summer, Arthur took all of the Weasley siblings along with Harry and Hermione to the Quidditch World Cup. When they went to pick up Harry at the Dursleys, Fred and George tested one of their joke candies on Dudley, and it was very successful. They took Harry to the Burrow, and Arthur was forced to tell Molly what the twins had done. Molly was extremely angry with them, and they had a big fight before they went to the World Cup. Bill and Charlie met Harry for the first time when they arrived at the Burrow. When they went to the World Cup, they were in the box with the Minister for Magic himself. After the match, a group of Death Eaters came out in masks and tormented the Muggle landowner and his family. Bill, Charlie, Percy, and Arthur assisted the Ministry in stopping the Death Eaters. When they got home, Molly ran over and hugged everyone, not knowing that they had been safe until they had just gotten home. She started to cry when she hugged Fred and George because of the big fight that they had before they left. "I shouted at you before you left. It's all I've been thinking about. What if you know who had got you? And the last thing I ever said to you was that you didn't get enough OWLs." The next term, Ginny was in her 3rd year, Ron was in his 4th, and Fred and George were in their 6th. Fred and George started to make and sell joke shop inventions, and experimented a lot with trying to perfect their craft. That same year, Harry was put in the Triwizard Tournament, and he had to compete alongside other champions, including Fleur Delacour, who was a French half-Veela, meaning she's naturally irresistible to men. Ron's true feelings of his and Harry's friendship came to the surface when he got jealous of Harry always being in the spotlight, and he said that he felt like he was always in Harry's shadow. They had a big fight.
That's understandable to a certain extent, but
the dual boss replaced that same year, and Ron once again got jealous. But this time it was a Victor Crumb who had taken Hermione to the ball. Fred asked Angelina Johnson, one of the chasers on the Gryffindor Quidditch team, to the ball.
Angelina.
Before the last task, each of the victors' families came, and Mrs. Weasley, along with Bill, came to support Harry, which meant a lot to him. While there, Fleur took immediate notice of Bill and was immediately attracted to him.
He is a handsome lad.
Tournament, but in the process, Voldemort
Did he win the tournament or was he the
Cedric, one of the champions, was killed.
I was gonna say he was the
didn't
victim,
deserve
but
the
he
prize
wasn't
money
the
he had
victim,
gotten.
really.
And after offering it to Cedric's parents, who had declined the offer, He gave it to Fred and George as a jumpstart for their joke shop, but he made them promise that they wouldn't tell Mrs. Weasley where they got the money, because she greatly disapproved of their desired career path. That summer, the Order of the Phoenix was formed again, and the Weasleys were at the core of the team.
Order of the
Dumbledore
Phoenix,
told Charlie
the
to
best.
stay in Romania to recruit foreign wizards to the Order's cause. That summer, Bill returned home from Egypt to get a desk job at Gringotts, so he could help out with the Order. Fleur Delacour got a part-time job at Gringotts as well, and the two became quite close. The family moved into number 12 Grimmauld Place for the summer, which was the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix. While there, Ron got a letter saying that he was made a prefect, and a very proud Arthur and Molly rewarded him by buying him a new broomstick. Percy was the only one in the family that was of age that didn't join the Order. Fudge, the Minister for Magic,
Yeah, 'cause he
turned
was a
against
bit of
Harry
a
and
traitor.
Dumbledore, saying that they
I'm
were
sorry.
lying about Voldemort's
I didn't
return.
like him at
Percy
all.
sided with Fudge rather
Yeah.
than his own family, and because of this, Percy was appointed junior assistant to Fudge. He thought his family would be pleased, but Arthur raised his opinion to say that he only got the position so that the Ministry could keep a tab on the Weasleys and Harry, along with the Order and Dumbledore. This led to a huge fight, where Percy said that he had to struggle against his father's lousy reputation, and that his father was an idiot for believing Dumbledore. Percy said that his loyalty was with the Ministry, and he disowned his family.
What a bitch. What a little... What a coward. What a freaking coward. What a little traitor. When you grow up with the most loving family and you side with the freaking Ministry, you suck up, sniveling little weasel. You're exactly what Malfoy thinks the Weasleys are. Oh my god. Disgusting.
He packed up and left to get his own apartment. Mrs. Weasley went there and begged Percy to come back, but he slammed the door in her face. During the school year, Ron tried out for goalkeeper on the Gryffindor Quidditch team, and to his great surprise, he actually made the team. One of the most important jobs to the Order was to protect the prophecy that had to do with Harry and Voldemort, and the lead members took turns guarding it. One night while watching it, Arthur was attacked by Voldemort's snake Nagini, who almost killed him. Harry witnessed the whole thing through the eyes of the snake, and he alerted everyone what had happened, which saved Arthur's life. Mr. Weasley was admitted to St. Mungo's, the Wizarding Hospital, and was there for a couple days over Christmas holidays.
Daddy's back.
Later that year, Fred and George stood
Oh my
up to
god,
the newly
talk about
appointed High
freaking
Inquisitor
hated
of Hogwarts,
people.
Dolores Umbridge. They used their joke shop creations to
Dolores,
set up
gosh,
fireworks,
is there more
send hexes
hated?
everywhere,
Yeah, she might be actually
vandalized
more
the
hated than
school, and
Voldemort.
just made the school overall chaotic. They flew off from the castle on
Iconic scene.
broomsticks, and they said to one of the troublemaking ghosts, "Give her hell from us, Peeves." They dropped out of school after that and decided to finally open their joke shop in Diagon Alley, which was incredibly successful. They were so successful that they were able to move out of the borough and live in a flat above their shop. This greatly impressed their parents, who were initially disappointed in their career path. They were very grateful to Harry for the startup money, and they told Harry that he could have anything he wanted in the store for free. The summer that followed, Arthur was promoted in the Ministry of Magic, which was a big deal for the family. That same summer, Bill and Fleur got engaged, and she stayed at the borough, because Bill wanted her to get to know his family better. Molly and Ginny greatly disliked Fleur, and Molly was trying to break up the engagement and
Why?
get Bill interested in Nymphadora Tonks. When everyone needed their school things for Hogwarts, they all
That's
visited
so
Fred and George's
surprising.
joke shop,
Why?
and were all amazed at how incredible their store was. At the start of term, Ginny started dating Dean Thomas, a fellow Gryffindor in Harry's year. They fought a lot and didn't have a very good relationship.
They've been fighting again, her and Dean.
That year, Ginny and Ron both tried out for the Quidditch team, and both made it. Ron was once again goalie, and Ginny became a chaser. Ginny eventually broke up with Dean after several months of consistent
You didn't
fighting.
deserve
Ginny
her,
took
Dean.
Harry's place as seeker for the championship because Harry was in detention, and they won thanks to Ginny's incredible seeking skills. During the celebrations, Harry walked into the common room and kissed Ginny in front of everyone. Everyone was taken aback. Harry immediately looked over at Ron, and Ron gave him a look that said, "Well, if you must." After that, Harry and Ginny started dating. Even though Percy knew that he was wrong about siding with the Ministry over his family, Harry and Dumbledore, he couldn't bring himself to face them, knowing that they had been right all along. Percy
Cowards.
eventually did face his family, however, but he was forced to by the new Minister for Magic, Rufus Scrimgeour, who was using Percy to get close to Harry. He forced Percy to go with him to the Burrow. The whole situation was extremely awkward, and Percy was extremely uncomfortable. Molly was excited to see her son and gave him a big hug, but the rest of the family knew what he was doing and why he was there, and they knew it wasn't to see them. Ginny, Fred, and George flung food at him, which made Percy storm out.
That makes me very proud of you three.
Dumbledore was killed, and the Battle of the Astronomy Tower took place. Bill was there when Death Eaters entered the castle. A werewolf that worked with Voldemort and his Death Eaters, although he wasn't a Death Eater himself,
He
attacked
was a
Bill and
savage
scratched his
character.
face up. Greyback wasn't transformed at the time, so Bill didn't turn into a werewolf, but the wounds were magically contaminated, meaning that the scratches on his face were permanent. Molly and Fleur became close while
That
they
just
were at
made him
Bill's
look
bedside,
cooler.
and Molly realized that Fleur truly cared about her son, and
Yeah,
she
of
realized that
course,
their
why did
relationship
you even
wasn't all
think
physical,
that?
but rather it was an emotional attraction, which she had originally thought was not the case.
Doesn't matter
For
because they're
werewolf
both
named Greyback.
handsome people.
Hope to repay the favour one day.
Well, you're still beautiful to me, William.
After Dumbledore's death, Harry knew that he was going on a dangerous mission, and he told Ginny that they couldn't be together anymore, which broke Ginny's heart. The following summer,
he wanted
Ron,
to be with
Bill,
her.
Fred,
That's
and George all participated
best
in the
for her
Battle
not
of
to be
Seven
together at that
Harrys. They were
time.
escorting Harry from his aunt and uncle's house and bringing him back to the Burrow. George was hurt badly by Snape, who used a spell that sliced his ear off. Bill and Fleur's wedding was the same summer, and they had a beautiful wedding until Death Eaters attacked. The family was then being watched closely by Voldemort and his followers. Harry, Ron, and Hermione set out to find Voldemort's Horcruxes, and Harry was marked as the #1 most wanted criminal in the wizarding world. Ron was seen with Harry, making him just as much of a criminal as Harry was. Bill sent word to the rest of the family immediately, and they vacated the Burrow just in time. After escaping Malfoy Manor, Harry, Ron, and Hermione stayed at Bill and Fleur's house, where they came up with a plan to break into Gringotts, the wizarding bank. Eventually, everyone got word that Harry had returned to Hogwarts, and the Battle of Hogwarts took place. Every one of the Weasleys stepped up to fight. When Percy got word about the fight, he showed up and made up with his family. I was a fool. I was an idiot. I was a pompous prat. I was a ministry-loving, family-disowning, power-hungry moron. Yes, I was. During the battle, Fred and Percy were joking around. You're joking, Percy? I don't think I've heard you joke since you were... The air exploded. In that fragment of a moment, when danger seemed temporarily at bay, the world was rent apart. No, 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 Fred. Percy was shaking his brother, and Ron was kneeling beside him. Fred's eyes stared without seeing. The ghost of his last laugh still etched upon his face. During a break in the battle, the Weasley family grieved Fred's death. Later in the battle, Bellatrix shot a spell at Ginny, and Molly stepped forward, the pain of losing her son driving her as she dueled Bellatrix, and she finally got a killing blow on her as she hit her with the spell directly over her heart.
It was so good.
Even though the battle was won, the
A
Weasley
lot
family
of
still
loss happened.
lost. The death of Fred affected them all very deeply, especially his twin brother George.
They were like the ink to the egg.
Yeah. Me too.